I'm going to explain a slew of behavior management techniques for an elementary art classroom that worked really well for me, and I hope that you can find some of these useful for you. The entrance into the art classroom is everything. In most elementary schools, I had 500 students, a ton of other classes outside of your classroom, and at intervals throughout the day, they all come into your classroom. So they're leaving their constant, steady environment and structure for your structure. So my students lined up outside of my classroom, and everything started here. If I was lenient with my expectations at this first moment that I happily greeted them and smiled and waved and started setting the expectations for how they entered the classroom, if I was like too flimsy with any of these expectations, it's all downhill from there. So I set a really high precedent from the moment I saw them every single day, never wavered, never faltered. I learned them all by name by giving them name tags. So as soon as they got to my classroom, they'd line up, they'd get their name tag so I could refer to them all by name. And eventually once the year had gone on for a little while, I knew all their names. And their expectation was quiet. So at my school, maybe if you're a teacher, you have heard something similar. There's this give me five thing. It varies a little bit school to school, but it's mostly eyes on me, mouth quiet, body still, ears listening. And sometimes, a teacher will put a hand up, the kids will put a hand up, bubble in your mouth, hands behind your back. There's different ways to help students be calm and enter the classroom. So this noise level 0, noise level 1 is like a whisper, but noise level 0 expectation for coming in the classroom had to be done perfectly. Every kid had to go in. They had assigned spots on the ground where we would start class. I would do 5 minutes of a presentation explaining what we'd be doing, explaining the rules of the classroom right away, and then the rest of the time would be making art because that's super fun. So if this group of 20 plus kids didn't all enter on a level 0 and all go to their spots and sit, crisscross, the whole gimme 5 thing, they had to go out and do it again. And this could go bad. There is always the possibility of the kid that wants to hijack the class, and there's different things you can do for that. But mostly if you just stay positive, keep that encouraging language, and just continue to redo this process, literally leaving the classroom again, lining up outside the classroom if everyone doesn't get it right, you can get there. So the start is super important. Once they're all seated, I am encouraging and complimenting the things that I'm seeing that I like. Jabril is sitting with his hands in his lap. I see Nevaeh and Aaliyah's eyes are on me. Nathan's super quiet right now. Thank you. Saturate the class with positive language. There's this idea that for every one correction, a kid should get 5 positive comments. Those numbers aren't, they don't have to be exact, but it's a way of thinking about how you talk to your class. Are you constantly giving them positive reinforcement that you're seeing things that you love, which helps them know how to do the things that you want them to do? Or are you just saying you're doing this wrong? I also, when they came in, would have on the smart board a Google slide presentation, and the first thing they would see is probably that expectation of eyes on me, mouth quiet, body still, ears listening. So the next thing we do is go over what we're going to be doing today, which is always fun. It's there's a slide of what we're going to be making, and they can get all excited. And expectations or rules, and rewards and consequences. So this is a system, right? You just have a few really simple rules, never more than 5. I think mine may have been 3. And on my wall and on the slide presentation, wall because it's always there, slide presentation because I literally reminded them of these things every single day. We went quickly, but there's the rules. Below it, there's 2 posters. If you do the right thing, we have fun. Look at all these rewards that you can get, all these great things that happen when you follow the expectations. And if you don't, there's all these consequences. They're escalating. You always get a redirection first. You always get a second chance and then XYZ consequence. We model this, we act out what it looks like, what following directions looks like, what using materials correctly looks like, what cleaning up looks like, always describing what I'm doing and what I want to be seeing. My classroom had a chill chair. There's like this little nook between a sink countertop and a cabinet. That was the perfect place for a little chair. And I made a poster above it with a little penguin cartoon, and it said chill chair. And kids saw that as a really positive option for if they were freaking out and having a hard time. My classroom had restorative justice posters that probably just had language around like those restorative questions. What happened? How did that make you feel? How did you respond? How did the other person respond? Facilitating those types of conversations. We also had posters of the scales or the learning goals, which is like, we use Marzano at this school. This is pretty much the same thing, just rehashed in a million different ways at every school. But it's like, what's the expectation for today? What are we going to get done? What are we going to learn? What are we going to accomplish? Instead of just text, I usually did this with visuals. So I showed a picture of what like a level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 learning would look like. 2 more things. I had a point system. So there were 4 point opportunities when every class walked in, participated, and left. They can get a point for if they all enter quietly, which you make sure they do. If, they had to give it like 5 tries one day, maybe they don't get that point. Listening attentively, which is specific to that time on the floor, looking at the presentation, getting that direct instruction, which never lasts for long because little kids can't sit that long. Do that really quick. If they listen, they get a point. And then majority of the class, bulk of the class, they are creating. So if they're putting forth a good effort there, they get a point. And then can they all line up quietly to leave? That's the 4th point. So every day, once they're in line ready to go, there's this huge grid on the door with every class, every grade level. They're all in competition with each other. Every day they get either a 1, 2, 3, or 4. By the end of the semester, there's a winner. And the winner doesn't get some extrinsic motivation. Not necessarily. They don't get like pizza or a toy. They get to be the winner. They get a poster in their window that says, Miss Smith's class is the star artist or the star art class for 4th grade. And they get to feel that pride for doing a good job. When I first heard about this type of intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation, I was like, no way. That doesn't work. That's not a thing. That's not right. I need to give my kids candy. But it totally worked. It's like, you just have to use the language. It's like, you guys get to be the best. And, you can reset it every quarter. Finally, art helper jobs. I am always asking students to do things in the classroom. They could be sorting paper, clearing drawers, sorting paintbrushes, winding yarn around cardboard, filling up buckets of water, passing things out, collecting things, putting things in the trash, like specifically naming kids, giving them specific tasks, something about not having to rely on me to get all these things done in the classroom, and making them feel like they're part of the operation is really good. So a very collaborative classroom, always fun, always emphasizing that like we are going to have the best time today. This is the most fun class, and being really specific about instructions, in addition to that constant praise and excitement and enjoyment.